Stevie, do you want to share the comment that you put? I have the same exact thing. I'm laughing because my family's like this too.
Basically, my parents are like very vocal and very like saying no is rude. So you have to go on this like long tangent or whatever, but it's not direct and it's not clear. And my husband's like, why don't you just say no if you don't want to do something? Like, that's it. No is the answer. And once you practice and you do it a few times, it's so much easier. It feels so much better. It's like you're not dragging it out. It's like more emotionally draining on yourself to go through all the story. No, that's it.
It is. After my sister passed in 2017, I was trying to be there for my mom and dad, Superwoman syndrome, still, but within a certain reason. But I got to the point that I recognized that my mom and my dad was draining me, and I only had but so much energy. And in order for me to at least maintain, my level of health that I had to learn how to say no, with them. And even to this day, my mom is, I have boundaries, and when I'm done, I'm done. And so when I'm at my parents' house and they can get that and crazy, I'm like, okay, I'm getting ready to go. I look at my husband, and it's gotten to the point now, my husband and I drive separate cars when we go visit my parents. Now, my husband loves my parents just like, they're his parents. I really appreciate that. But I don't have the energy to stay with them as long as he does. And so now we drive separate cars. So when I'm done, I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm gone. Love y'all. Bye. And my mom was like, don't leave me. Don't leave me. I was like, Mom, I'm gone. Kevin is here. See y'all later. And I just leave. And I had to be okay with it. And that's the thing. That's why I'm telling you all, the most important thing about setting boundaries and really getting over the hurdle of the Superwoman syndrome is to really be okay with your boundaries and saying no.
Yeah, that's great. There's like this level of confidence that I think we all have to get to.
Yeah.
Right? The confidence to say no, the comfort to say no.
Yeah. Nobody's died since I've been saying no. And projects, whatever they want it done, it's still been getting done. Not necessarily by me, but but yeah, you got to get comfortable in saying no.
Sarah has a great question. Sarah, do you want to ask your question? I don't think we can hear you.
Oh, but her volume is not, she's not muted.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. My question is, how are you navigating saying no in a professional setting? So when it's like, hey, I want you to do this, this is an interesting project, I want you to take on this, like how is that conversation going? Because that is like the pain point for me.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that. So before I left my corporate job in 2017, I left right after my sister passed away in December. And I was chief of operations for a local nonprofit statewide Medicaid company. And early on in my career, I didn't know how to say no. And I own that. I did not know how to say no. So anytime my medical director would come to me with something, I would always say yes. Now, what I will tell you is that I moved up to where I could delegate it out. But I also would keep in mind that I wanted my team members to operate in their zone of genius. And so if it was something that they didn't feel comfortable with, I wanted them to let me know up front, because I wanted people to feel comfortable in doing the work that I had given them to do. And so that would put them in a little bit of an awkward situation, because they always looked at me as coming to them, delegating something out, but then I would give them the option to say no. And they didn't know how to say no. So they had to learn, and they would come back to me and say, well, this is really not my, it's not my level of expertise where I feel comfortable with it. Maybe somebody else would like to do it. Would you be okay if someone else worked on this project, or maybe we could work on it together and I could lend them my knowledge, but it just doesn't feel like it's the right project for me. And I was always open to that. That was the type of leadership style I had. Now, I also recognize that everybody is not is not going to be that vocal or that verbal about what they feel comfortable and not comfortable in doing. But I always want people to try to work on projects that they were happy with. So is it something that's going to make you happy? Is it something that's going to make your work, your skill level shine? And if it's not, you need to be honest with yourself, because you probably won't do the best job that could be done, because there might be somebody with more skills and, expertise that can do it. And so really kind of going within and seeing it if the best project for you, and then figuring out how to have that conversation with whoever delegated it out to you. I can't promise you that you're always going to be able to get out of it. We all got to work, but really being honest with yourself and honest with the person that has asked you to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I have a question that goes along with that.
Mhm.
So just from your experience and your perspective, would you say that there is a cost sometimes in the workplace for saying no to some things, or speaking up and saying, I don't think this is a fit for you? Or, what has been your experience when you've said no to projects? Has it been something where you've always been under leadership that was okay and supportive of that? Or have you had some pushback?
Both. I've had both. I will say that the type of leader that I was, I always wanted people to be happy. Happiness at work was a real big thing for me. And for me, my employees were scattered across the entire state of North Carolina. So I didn't have like one building where everybody was housed. But I also know that we were a very close-knit family. There were times that I did ask people to do things that I felt like they could do it, but they didn't want to do it. And I pushed them because I felt like it was an area for growth. And that did not turn out to be a good situation. She stayed in that role for probably a year longer. She was absolutely miserable. She was promoted to a regional manager position. She stayed in that position for a year. She absolutely hated it, and she left. And then when we had another opening, she just wanted to come back as a case manager. And so I think we as leaders, not just leaders within ourselves, but leaders within the company, we really do need to listen to what our team members or what our employees are saying. So I don't know how many of you are actually leaders in your company, but you're definitely a leader within yourself. But listen to what you're feeling. Listen to if you feel like it's the right, project for you to be working on. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here. Listen to yourself to see if you're in the right job. A lot of us are in jobs because of the money. We're in jobs because of the prestige that it might give us, but it might not be the right job for us. And so sometimes when we're forced to do something that we don't necessarily want to do, there's a reason. It may be that that's not the place for you. So, and I don't want to make it seem like you all need to just jump ship, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is when you're in a role and you know it's not for you, it's impacting your health as well.
Yep. Kayla has a question. Her hand is raised.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Figured it out. Yeah, I figured I would just jump into the conversation rather than using the chat. But since we're talking about like the professional setting, I think where I struggle the most with saying no is if I don't do it, it won't get done. And it like is business critical to get done, or the person that is responsible for it isn't doing it. And so I have an option to take it and make sure that it gets done and like, the team meets this goal or this thing happens. So it's really hard. That's where I run into the wall of like, this isn't really, I can say no to this. I should say no to this. But if I say no to this, no one else is saying yes to it. And it's really important. And that's where like I really have trouble navigating situations like that and saying no.
So if you're always saying yes to it, no one else has to say yes to it.
True.
I mean, that is the perfect example of the Superwoman syndrome, where you feel like you're the only one that can do it. No one is going to step up to the plate. What I find is that if we just sit back and wait, have patience, somebody will step up. It doesn't always have to be us. Now, maybe when the person, your supervisor or whoever, your manager gets to begging and no one steps up, then maybe you might want to step up then. But try to always allow for space, because what I always tell people, and even in the leadership role that I had before, is that sometimes we step up because we feel like no one else will do it. But the thing is that we haven't given people enough time to get the courage to step up to do it. And it takes courage sometimes if people are having to venture out of their comfort zones. If it's a growth opportunity, then they got to be willing to venture outside of their comfort zone. And if we keep stepping up and taking on different projects that is meant for someone else, and we never allow our team members to grow.